Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, we're back for the last day of the week on this Friday. That's October 20th, 2017. I'm Greg Anthony here on the Investigative Journal, and glad you came back. Last day of the week. Boy, what we have going on in this world is just too much. And people ask me all the time, how do you cope with everything? How do you get out of the matrix? And we're going to discuss a little bit of that today, along with, we're going to go to a report that a Dr. Deagle did on his website regarding depopulation. Now, it's could be an accurate view because he looks at what will unfold in 2025 with depopulation events underway. But maybe it's not so eerie. If you know who this guy is, Bill Deagle, he's a big-time NSA operative. So is his website. He broadcasts, last I heard, on Genesis alongside Alex Jones. And I got to know these guys when I worked over there. And Deagle came aboard, and he's been doing this kind of reporting for the Patriots, so to speak, but really working for the NSA and the powers that be. Now, whether his report is accurate is not up to me to decide, but it's kind of interesting to look at it and look what people have been saying. So we're going to look at Deagle's forecast for North Korea and for America in 2025 at the end of this. We've already done a show on it, and you know what his depopulation figures are like. Now, where did he get these? If he works for the NSA, it'd be pretty easy to tell. But I looked up a story. It's from Daisy Luther over at Organic Prepper. She asks a great question as her title. If a North Korean EMP, you know what an EMP is? You know, wipes out all the electricity in the world, okay, could kill 90% of Americans in 1 year, why did they just defund the Congressional EMP Commission? Yeah, you know, it's a good question. There's a commission that's been around for, God, at least 17 years. I don't know if you know about this. And their goal was to improve our power grid. But nobody has ever listened to their recommendations. Instead, our government has let it decay or leave it in a state of, you know, it's just there for the taking, so to speak. Now, it was reported way back in October, despite pleas from the EMP experts such as Dr. William Graham and Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, the intelligence has fallen upon deaf ears. As this, the story, as the, I believe it was The Hill reported, North Korea won the battle against America's EMP Commission. Sadly, losing the battle could result in 90% of Americans dead within the year following such an attack, and was asked by Dr. Pry, and this, was in a on the web somewhere. The Hill reported on it. Story, it was back on October 10th. Will America's epitaph be died of stupidity? Yet we need to remember that it wasn't North Korea that killed the EMP Commission, but those within America. And because of that, maybe we shouldn't be surprised that the EMP Commission has been disbanded, as their warnings have gone unheeded for nearly 2 decades, leaving America's biggest Achilles heel totally unaddressed. Despite more and more evidence that North Korea has the capability to launch an attack upon America, we are reminded that all they need was one successful attack to send America, quite literally, back to the Dark Ages. Now, how would Hollywood gear up to this? What about all the money that's going to be lost? Where are they going? Are they going to start Hollywood in China? Or somewhere else? Yeah? With American subtitles? You know, you can see this statement given by Pry and Graham to Congress in the Scrib document that was embedded on the web. You can get it It's there. They just got rid of the commission, and they have not listened to what they wanted to improve our power grid so it could be protected. Well, do our government leaders want to leave it like the way it is, unprotected, so that America could take a fall? Maybe. With America now suffering through one disaster after the next, and no one can deny that. And who causes them, that's up to you to figure out, but I think there's an inside job working on all of them. With droughts and fires, massive weather modification taking place across the country, what appears to be an orchestrated psyops going on in Vegas. Oh, this has been going on forever and ever, folks. With nothing making any sense anymore. With the coroner's office there on lockdown, and the earth change. Yeah, because they can't prove that all these people died or were even injured. And earth changes from East Coast to the West. We take a look within this story at why the website Deagles.com forecasts 2025 America likely gives us a very accurate view of what America will look like in 2025 with depopulation events now happening across the country. Well, they're going to have to step it up. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, I mean, there's only, there's just a little dent into the population of 350 million. But many more are likely on the way if the globalist goals are to be met. Yes. First, let's look at what Organic Prepper said. I was going to say Organic Pepper. Sounds better, huh? So for 17 years, she says, this group has been ringing the warning bell and no one has been listening. Now that the threat is at our doorstep, their funding has been pulled. Something doesn't add up. Does it? Why would they first ignore all of the recommendations to increase the power grid, and second, then disband the EMP Commission when they're needed the most? That is a really powerful question, isn't it? Now, I'll go back to the Organic Pepper, or Prepper. Why would the EMP Commission suddenly be disbanded at a time when America, didn't I just say this, may be under the greatest threat that we've ever been under of an EMP attack, with these same experts recently warning that 90% of Americans could die after such an attack upon us? If there really are enemies of America within who want Americans dead in huge numbers, such as those shown over at Deagle.com, they'd be no better way than an EMP attack upon us, likely called either fake news or conspiracy theory by the mainstream media and the general U.S. population. The website Deagle.com is still forecasting an 85% drop in population of America between now and 2025, with 324 million people living in the U.S. In 2016, there are bizarre forecasts of only 54 million people living here in 2025. Where are all these people going to go? Now, in 2016, there's 324 million people in America, 9.6 million square miles of surface space, density 34 inhabitants per square mile. Forecast on the NSA Bill Deagle report, population 54 million, 6 inhabitants per square mile. Wow. Could that be true? Now, what are the world figures? I bet you don't know how many people are in the world as far as 2016. 7.3 billion, 135 million square miles. That's calculated on what? The flat earth or the round earth? 54 inhabitants per square mile. Wow. And what did they say? 6.8 billion in 2025. 50 inhabitants. Well, that's not much. Looks like America's getting squeezed, no? Now, while the population density drops of 34 inhabitants per square mile in 2016 to only 6 inhabitants per square mile in the United States, as seen in this screenshot that I was reading from Deagle, might delight those who find it difficult to live among huge crowds of people. They also put further emphasis upon what America might look like within only 7 years. The huge drop in both gross domestic product and GDP per capita showing America as a third world nation. That's what we've been saying for years. Or an America sent back to the dark ages via an EMP attack that brings down our power grid and is just beginning to truly rebuild our infrastructure. These numbers seen below that I'm talking about also show an America whose military has been neutered, with a drop from $6.12 billion in military expenditures in 2016 to a forecast of only $8 billion spent upon the military in 2025. What does Deagle know that we don't know? With purchase power parity forecast to drop from 57,316 to people making normally 11,304 in 2025, they see in America in 2025 looking almost as bad as Venezuela today. Do these numbers show the fall of America, according to the Deagle report? Now let's look at, we talked yesterday about what you got to deal like on the internet now with all these people, all these creeps. You don't know who they are. And is this guy an NSA, giving NSA stats to warn people? Or is he a fear-mongering guy that's just making them up? That's what you got to deal with now. You got to know, where does he come up with this stuff? But those are the possibilities. Do Deagle's numbers suggest an apocalyptic event for America? While the MSM hasn't even touched upon Deagle, at least they themselves attempted to answer many of alternative media's questions in their explanation of why they feel America is about to hit rock bottom. Keep in mind, the explanation and their population numbers do not take into account a possible nuclear war or EMP attack on America. A brief excerpt from Deagle themselves. Here it is. He says, there have been many questions about the country's forecast, especially the one focusing on the United States. They won't be answered by one, but below you can find some explanations, thoughts, and reflections. We are going to keep this as short as possible. The majority of economic and demographic data used in the making of the forecast is widely available by institutions such as CIA, IMF, UN, USG. You can see the most relevant data coming from a variety of shadow sources such as internet groups, unassigned reports, and others. But all these sources are from the internet and are of public domain for at least a minority. By the way, no pandemic or nuclear war is included in the forecast. The key element to understand the process that the U.S. will enter into an upcoming decade is migration. In the past, specifically in the 20th century, the key factor that allowed the U.S. to rise to its colossus status was immigration and the benefits of demographic expansion, supporting the credit expansion. The collapse of the Western financial system will wipe out the standard of living of its population while ending Ponzi schemes such as the stock exchange and pension funds. The population will be hit so badly by a full array of bubbles and Ponzi schemes that the migration engine will start to work in reverse, accelerating itself due to ripple effects, thus leading to the demise of the states. This unseen situation for the states will develop itself in a cascade pattern with unprecedented and devastating effects for the economy. Jobs offshoring will surely end, with many American corporations relocating overseas, thus becoming foreign corporations. So, a whole lot of stuff going on. The American standard of living is one of the highest, far more than double of the Soviets, while having added a services economy that will be long gone with the financial system. When pensioners see their retirement disappear in front of their eyes and there are no servicing jobs, you can imagine what is going to happen next. At least younger people can migrate. Never in human history were so many elders among the population. In past centuries, people were lucky to get to their 30s or 40s. Is that true? American downfall is set to be worse than the Soviet Union's one, a confluence of crisis with a devastating result. Okay, so while it looks like there's a massive depopulation for the U.S., according to Deagle, in the next 7 years, we may consider ourselves lucky, really, as we see in the forecast for North Korea. It almost looks like the country will be wiped off the map by 2025. Is this more proof that a nuclear war World War III is in the works and North Korea will be non-existent? Within 7 years, we think Well, Deagle's 2025 report forecast for North Korea says that. And if he's an NSA guy, maybe he knows. With nuclear war talk at the highest that we can ever remember, it's quite the given that if North Korea launches an EMP attack upon America that takes down the grid nationwide, the response by President Trump in the U.S. would be overwhelming, with North Korea absolutely wiped off the map. Now, Trump has said that. But by then it would be far too late for 90% of Americans. Oh, but the elite will somehow survive, and then they'll own all the land. I got to ask a question. Are they going to shut the lights off in Mexico? Is the fact that the EMP Commission was shut down and the government never did take any concrete steps to address our very real Achilles heel proof of a dark and sinister plot to complete the destruction of your loving country, America? For anybody who thinks that America would still be a free nation after an EMP attack, you're likely gravely wrong. Such an attack would allow government to complete the imposition of their totalitarian control grid with 324 plus million Americans living in the dark ages. Now, how are they going to function? I mean, you got Hollywood, you got baseball games, you got football games. I mean, I have a hard. I even said this a long time ago. I always gear my war strategy on the World Series, so they're not going to do it before that. And of course, we got the Super Bowl. Then they won't do it before that. Then what happens? That's that low period. Are they just going to cut bait? Where are we going to play baseball with all this going on? Now, everybody plays under the lights. Are we going to have to go back to playing daytime baseball? I mean, can't we function under candlelight? Can't people grow food? What about water? There used to be people that could find water. I mean, they're saying basically that every one of these Americans are so stupid they can't live without Con Ed. Of course, it would be a drain. Trucks aren't going to run, but the air is going to clean. Look at the bright side of this. The air is going to be cleaner. You don't have to worry about commuting on the 405 or the 5 if you're in LA. You don't have to worry about getting on those crowded subways. You can just stay at home and think of something to do in New York. And what about the country people? Well, they got to land, grow something. I mean, why is shutting the lights off going to kill everybody? Now, somebody will comment, Greg, you're wrong when you say that, because people will go crazy. There's no food. They won't have water. They don't know what to do. I suggest sleep at night and just do your business during the day. Greg, now come on. That's not a solution. People can't live without electricity, Greg. Now, who said I couldn't? Me? I keep talking to myself. That's what's happening lately on this show. Pretty soon it'll be like Greg Szymanski interviewing Greg Anthony, etc., etc. You can't live without electricity, Greg. You know that. You just came home, and you need it. You got your refrigerator on. You got to have cold water. You got to have a cold beer. I mean, you die within 2 weeks, Greg. And you're saying, come on, grow some things. You don't know how to grow anything anymore. You grew up on a farm. But that was years ago, when I was a kid. I don't remember how to do that. My dad knew how. We had soybeans. We used to plant corn. We had a garden. We had cows that gave milk. We'd be okay back then. But now look at me. I'm dependent upon the man. I'd have to learn how to cook. Grow stuff, but then by the time I grow stuff, I'd die of starvation. And I haven't planned one bit, but I bet you there's people out there in America that have been planning for this. And they're out there in the country, they got their garden, they got 1 billion gallons of water supplied, hiding somewhere. They got everything planned. Are those the ones that are going to survive? Down to the 54 million? That's still a lot of people. You've got a fighting chance. So here I am. Well, I'm not even in America. Will they turn the lights off in Italy? That's a good question. The Vatican needs lights. They're not going to turn the lights off there. Maybe we should move near the Vatican. I'm not that far from the Vatican, but maybe we should move near there. Maybe we should live in the Vatican. You know they're not going to turn the lights off there. They're not going to bomb there. No, maybe they will. Who knows? They want to destroy Catholicism, so then they want to move to Jerusalem, so maybe we'll go there. Now, this is the way I think when I listen to reports like this. This is what happens to people. I'm just giving you an example. You don't know whether this report is just fear-mongering, whether it's true, but this is where people are getting their news today. There are so many people out there. I liked it better when there was Walter Cronkite and a few newspapers than all these local newspapers. At least you could trust somebody. Now, who the hell do you know who's talking? You know? So I read these things. You go from one to the other. It gets to be a little crazy, doesn't it? And you go crazy like I'm showing you today. I mean, what are you going to do? I can make it. I don't need the electricity. Sure you do, Greg. Sure, just mislead people. You need electricity. America would fall. Trucks would stop. There'd be no fuel, no food, no nothing. Especially in the cities. I mean, people in the country may make it. They're giving 54 million people a chance out of 324. I'm sure all the rich people will make it. I don't know how many of those there are. I'm sure everybody in Hollywood will figure something out. They'll take an airplane with the last remaining fuel and they'll fly to some island. And they'll all live with Richard Branson on his island. It might get a little crowded, but they can survive for a while until they get things under control, so to speak. So completely dependent are we upon electricity to live our daily lives, everything will quickly come to a grinding halt. And as many in the alternative media have warned over and over, and over and over, and over and over, an America without electricity for 9 months to a year immediately brings about the end of the world as we know it. In the first video below, but for some people they might want that. Go back to the dark, I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it be nice to live in the 1800s before all these people, before all this technology? Well, maybe I'll get my wish. The first video below, there's one here I wanted to play, but I can't do it. So what I'm going to do is just read a little here. Something huge is up with the end of the funding of the EMP Commission, going back to that article. Despite no progress being met upon hardening our electrical grid over 17 years, a total failure of leadership. Look, let me just tell these people writing these articles, that's what they want. They're down in that tunnel between Georgetown and the White House, and the Jesuits are going, you better not fix that power grid. We got to kill these people. We thrive on bloodshed. Should the U.S. be hit by an EMP over the next several months or years, leading to 270 million U.S. deaths, where are they going to put all these people? It's going to be one big cemetery. Blood will not only be on the hands of North Korea or whoever delivers the death blow to America, but on the hands of those who fail to secure our grid. And the hands of the Jesuits, too. Let's throw everybody in there. In the second video, I can't even play these now. I'm going to get to it another time. We only got a few minutes on this side of the break, and I warn you, the power grid will not last. We will not be able to come back in the next 3 minutes because the power grid is going out. I just got a notice here on it's got a bleep. No power in 2 minutes, so I won't see you on the other side of the break, but if it does come back, I will. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, we're back. I guess the electric's on, or are we on a power generator backup? Well, I guess I just flicked my lights on. They're here, so I'm going to survive another day. No EMP attack today. But is it coming in the next year? In 2025, there are only going to be 54 million Americans left. Well, that'd be terrible, wouldn't it? What a day. But anyway, let me get to something I really enjoy. Today could be the last day of the Chicago Cubs baseball schedule this year. They've played 162 games, won the National League Central Division again. They squeaked by to win the National League Division Series, won it in 5 games. Okay, now they're up against the Dodgers, who have a really good team, and they're down 3-1, with probably one of the best pitchers in baseball going for the Dodgers, who have a heck of a team this year. Cubs beat them the last couple of years in the league championship series, which is going on tonight. And as you know, you got to win 4 to get to the World Series. And my boys in blue look like they're going to be going home for the summer. Take a long vacation. Now, long ago, I started watching the Cubs when I was a kid in Chicago. And I remember going to about 30 baseball games one summer. And I was an avid Cub fan, and as I watched them struggle for years, they hadn't won the World Series since 1908. And I remember even in 2015, I said to myself, oh dear God, dear Lord, please let me, don't kill me before I see the Cubs win the World Series. After that, it's okay. Whoops! Guess what happens? In 2016, the Cubs win the World Series, and now God knows I don't care if I live or die. Can I take that back? But anyway, I did live to see the Cubs win it, and I guess once they win it once, you want them to win it every year. But this year, I got to hand it to them. They didn't play that well, but they still won their division, and they had a hell of a second half. And what I mean by that, the second half of the season starts after the All-Star break, and they had the best record in baseball. However, I cannot see how they can come back. Now, they won yesterday. They were down 3-0. Now, in the history of baseball, 35 teams have been down 3-0 in a playoff series, and only one has come back. And that is the Boston, or maybe 2. No, I think it's not many. I think it's 1. The Boston Red Sox in 2004 were down 3-0 to the Yankees, and they came back and won 4 straight. And the irony is that Dave Roberts, who's the manager of the Dodgers, stole a base in Game 4 when the Yankees were about to win it, and that led to the winning run, and the Red Sox went on to defeat the Yankees. Now, Roberts is the manager of the Dodgers. So, if this is the last day of the Cubs, good season, boys, and I'll see you next year. That's if there's no EMP attack. See, I really get upset with this because the Cubs just put in lights in their field in 1988, the last major league team to do that, and they would be completely useless. Have to go back to watching day games. Okay, and they can't play baseball if they don't eat. Have water. All right, so that's my baseball report for the day. And don't worry, the world's not going to end until after the World Series. And then we got the Super Bowl, so we're safe till then. But I have to go to a story that I have to read. Many people will say, why are you going to talk about Harvey Weinstein? Well, it's an interesting story. It's nothing that we don't know. We kind of overlook what goes on in Hollywood. Now, I have some close connections, not to Hollywood big shots and that, but I happen to enjoy that profession in a sense at certain times in my life. And I wanted to read this because it was interesting. It's written by, let's see, who posted this? Doesn't say. I wish people put their names down. Easier. It's posted by MM. Okay, that's good enough these days. Humans are free. Well, really. Harvey Weinstein is the tip of the iceberg. His case is exposing how Hollywood has fostered and protected pedophiles for decades. Oh, here it is. Matt Agorist, guest author. Pedophilia in Hollywood, according to victims and those who expose it, is rampant and exists throughout the industry. Those who expose it are often tarred and feathered in the mainstream, and the predators in Hollywood remain protected. However, the recent revelations about the alleged sexual abuse doled out by Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein appears to be a chink in the pedophilia protective armor enjoyed by Tinseltown. Now, I'm going to add something here. Or was it orchestrated? Did they want this to come out the way it did so that they can protect a lot of other people, and Harvey's just taking the fall? After the New York Times piece exposed Harvey Weinstein for rampant sexual harassment, why now? He'd been doing this for years. Everybody knew about it. It came out in the Hollywood Reporter years ago. I mean, they didn't use his name, but everybody knew it was Harvey. And actresses and actors came out to expose how they too have been abused in the industry. Why just don't succumb to it, say no. But they want to go, they want to get to the top, so they'll do anything. This massive coming out is forcing the mainstream media to finally cover the sexual abuse that goes on behind the scenes, leaving a trail of damaged children and adults alike in its wake. That's not going to matter anyway. Everybody's going to get killed by the EMP attack. To highlight just how sick and depraved many of those in the industry are, shortly after Walt Disney Company bought out Bob and Harvey Weinstein's company, these guys are sitting pretty. You think Harvey cares about this? He'll get a good lawyer. If he doesn't win, he'll go to some non-extradition company and live the rest of his life out of the country. So Disney buys Weinstein in 1993. Disney hired a convicted child molester who molested a young boy on a movie set to direct the film Powder. Because Disney acquired Miramax, they are now subject to potential lawsuits over the alleged abuse doled out by Weinstein since he stayed on with the firm until 2005. If someone between the years of 1993 and 2005, when it owned Miramax, Disney was aware of Weinstein's behavior, Disney was obligated to protect its employees, including young actresses like Gwyneth Paltrow, Rose McGowan, who claimed to have been harassed, including Asia Argento, who claims Weinstein raped her in 1997. Breitbart's John Nolte reported. Is that any relation to Nick? Outside of the open secret, he says, another issue that makes one wonder about Disney's moral, ethical, and legal liability is the settlements. Now, come on, anybody who created Mickey Mouse and Minnie are good people, aren't they? Oh, please don't destroy my beliefs. Unless Weinstein settled, and Daffy Duck, and Goofy, come on. Elmer Fudd? Did they create Elmer Fudd? I don't know. Outside of the open secret, another issue that makes one wonder about Disney's moral and ethical and legal liability is the settlements. Unless Weinstein settled using his own money, which is unlikely, how could Disney not know about corporate money spent for sexual harassment settlements? They're talking about if he supposedly has paid out a lot of money over the years to keep these women quiet. 5 years before Disney hired the convicted pedophile, he was convicted of Victor Salva. He was convicted of molesting a child on a movie set, which he directed, and for possessing child porn. To highlight the nature of how Hollywood not actually condones them, Disney cared not about hiring Salva, and once again gave him access to children on the set of Powder. Instead of lambasting Disney for hiring a convicted child predator, the industry went on to praise him. As controversy swirled around filmmaker Victor Salva, who pleaded guilty in 1988 to molesting a boy on the set of a low-budget picture, Clown House, Salva's agent said that a good showing at the box office may salvage this 37-year-old director's career. At least 3 studios are meeting with him. One has already given Victor scripts to read, said his agent David Gersh, who declined to name the studios. If Powder does well, Gersh added, Victor will see work again. He's a true talent. If not, who's to say? Let that sink in a bit, folks. Not only was this man not blackballed in the industry for molesting children and possessing child porn, he was being fought over by multiple Hollywood companies. In fact, in spite of the controversy, Salva has gone on to write and direct many more Hollywood movies since Powder, including the horror series Jeepers Creepers, which releases its 3rd sequel this year. And I have to admit, I've watched those. And I didn't know about this guy. Now, would I have watched him knowing? Jeepers Creepers, yeah, it was one of those Hollywood horror movies. And I think I was bored one night, and I just turned the tube on and let it run, and it was actually kept my interest for a little while. Which talks a lot about me. As the Free Thought Project reported last year, as the rest of the society casts out pedophiles and makes them register as sex offenders to warn others about their tendencies to prey on children, Hollywood in a sense embraces them, don't they? Gives them access to children and puts them on a pedestal, a true horror story indeed. As the Free Thought Project reported last year, child star turned adult actor Elijah Wood also claimed Hollywood is in the midst of a massive sexual abuse scandal, which can be compared to that of Jimmy Savile in Britain. Wood came forward in an interview to blow the lid off the dark underground world of child acting in Hollywood. In the interview with the Sunday Times, Wood dropped a bombshell noting how child actors were regularly preyed upon by industry figures. Clearly something major was going on in Hollywood, said Wood. It was all organized. There are a lot of vipers in this industry, people who have their own interest in mind, said Elijah Wood in his interview. There is a darkness in the underbelly. If you can imagine it, it's probably happened. Wood said the abuse runs unchecked because the victims can't speak as loudly as people in power. That's the tragedy of attempting to reveal what is happening to innocent people, he said. They can be squashed, but their lives have been irreparably damaged. Wood is referring to the immense power of Hollywood elites to control the narrative and quash any allegations of abuse before they even happen. This narrative is so controlled that after Wood made these comments, the very next day the mainstream media attacked him and forced him to downplay them. Indeed, this control over the narrative is so strong that Weinstein may indeed be a sacrificial lamb, cast out of the group as to divert attention away from the other atrocities, as I was saying earlier, right? Rose McGowan, who worked with both Salva and Weinstein, attempted to call attention to this problem on her Twitter account Wednesday, and for this they suspended her account. So Twitter must be on the side of pedophilia in Hollywood, right? Interesting. Let's move on. Okay, so at the break, I have to admit, I Googled warning. I was looking at mass casualty events. What has been said on the internet about it? Because we were talking about the Deagle report, which said there was only going to be 54 million Americans left in 2025. Now, I found this thing. It's an article by Jay Will. And he adds, ISIS fanatics plotting new 9/11. Just another thing to think about, right, folks? Homeland Security Chief says jihadists are working on a big explosion and want to bring down planes to inflict mass civilian casualties. So he says, mass casualty event. America may be sidetracked with issues at hand, but we never fail to remember that we are a country at war. I may add an orchestrated war. That yes, we're at war with from within. People of our own government, of our own religious organizations are at war with American people. No matter what takes place on a day-to-day basis, we always remember that we, as a nation, were violently attacked over 16 years ago, and it's score that we haven't settled. Oh, I'm loving this. It's a mainstream start to this article. So we're going to listen to what they have to say. Maybe they can warn us of something. And it's score that we haven't settled yet, because terrorism hasn't been wiped out. Oh, really? I can tell you how to wipe it out. Just go to Borgo Santo Spirito Cinque and wipe them out. But you're not going to wipe out the Jesuits, and I don't even want to do that. It would be a very boring world, wouldn't it? All this peace and tranquility and good faith and goodwill to others. Who could live with that? Come on. The rise of the politically correct movement and its acceptance of non-radical Muslims has somehow permitted them to worm their way into many places that shouldn't be, such as government. That is particularly bothersome, taking into consideration that the threat from the Islamic faith and its admonitions to kill is far from past. Yeah, we sort of forgot about it for a while, haven't we? But we got to remember where it came from. It's orchestrated. And the Jesuits and the Vatican and our great world leaders, who are their puppets, created this organization. In truth, and I'm saying that, this guy probably doesn't know anything about it. or knows and doesn't want to say anything. Who knows? In truth, based on top administration officials, the smaller attacks that we've been witnessing in recent months are just a scheme to keep their members appeased while they plan a 9/11 scale attack. Well, that's not going to kill 200 million people. Daily Mail accounts that a U.S. security chief is forewarning not just all of us, but other countries as well to be vigilant. Oh, just go ask some Jesuit priest at the top levels. I'll tell you when it's going to happen. Islamic State fanatics and other terror groups are planning another massive attack on 9/11. A top security chief warned today. Now, I could make that up. Elaine Duke, Donald Trump's acting Secretary of Homeland Security, they give a name, stated jihadists were utilizing crude knife and van attacks to keep their members. I don't know if that was the same one. Whether Duke is what, the security chief? I don't think so. Members engaged in their finances flowing as the plot for another big explosion, similar to September 2001. My, how the years go by. It's like yesterday. I remember waking up on that couch on my birthday. I just happened to wake up, I had the TV on. I think I left it on all night. Who knows? And I opened my eyes, and there I see something going into the Twin Towers, and I thought it was a movie. Probably was. I mean, when you really think about what they've done. Speaking at the U.S. Embassy in London, she stated, intelligence is pointing to extremists plotting to take down planes to inflict mass civilian casualties, while the United States has sustained an attack on the same scale as 9/11. Since that day, we've observed the terrorists grow in both number and boldness across the globe. Our war on terror in the Middle East might have overthrown some open leaders, but for every open leader that threatens the United States and is eliminated, there are 3 more. How do they know? How about 5 more? 20 more. Willing to... I think she's just using that's what you always say. If there's 1, there's 3. Mrs. Duke said ISIS is currently in an interim period focusing on a much bigger endgame. The security chief, who has served 3 U.S. presidents, stated, boy, she must be deep into the Vatican-led New World Order. The terrorist organizations, be it ISIS or others, want to have the big, big explosion like they did on 9/11. They want to take down aircraft. The intelligence is clear on that. However, in the interim, they need to keep their finances flowing, and they need to keep their visibility high, and they need to keep their members engaged. So they are using small plots. And they are happy to have small plots. She included, creating terror is their goal. Now, who else's goal is that? I think it's the Vatican-led New World Order's goal. I think they work for them. I think they created them. They provided the brains behind this whole terror situation. I was there in Italy when they were practicing regional terror. The strategy of tension in Italy was the precursor to what this now is, worldwide terror. Based on Duke, just like they tested communism in the Paraguay experiments, the Jesuits, they had to test terrorism too, right? Based on Duke, who is President Trump's acting Secretary of Homeland Security, there's even a distinctive possibility that any plan could be blown up utilizing a laptop. And that's just one of the many possibilities she pointed out. She said the free movement of goods and people means security has to be tightened. That's all they do. They scare you, they create the enemy, then they scare you, and they make you then fear what's happening, and then something happens, and then they lock you down, right? And we're going to protect you, but we have to do this. We have to make it more secure. She stated the laptop is one of the many aviation threats. We will never be comfortable, and we will always be evolving. What we believe is that because of the movement of goods and people, we have to raise the baseline worldwide. We can't consider our borders. Mrs. Duke continued, we think the level of terrorist threat against the United States, too, is extremely high. I think that it is challenging for all of us because you have the proximities to other countries. The ease of movement from some of the terrorist safe havens is a little easier for you. Well, who's promoting open borders? The leader of ISIS, Pope Francis, and his group. Easy to get them in and out, right? The trouble factor about Duke's statement isn't why or how, but when. She's convinced that another large-scale attack is going to be coming soon. We may not see it coming. No, they're going to tell you exactly the date and time. This is a big reason that the United States and other free countries, right, like it, need to crack down on prospective terrorists. This is the big reason that the United States and other free countries like it need to crack down. You just said that, Miss Duke. You said it twice. We can only be free if that freedom is respected. If we don't protect the freedom, it will be taken either by those who want to destroy us. How about your bosses? Oh boy. What a lot of stuff you read on this. And once you go through this stuff, it makes you want to just never look at the internet again, you know? Maybe an EMP attack is what we need. Can you imagine? Oh my God. I'm without a cell phone for a day. I think I'll die. People will die faster without their cell phone just from anxiety than they will from not eating. Now, just for the facts, you can go a long time without eating. I once went 17 days with only drinking water. And I felt better when I started eating slowly again. Now, you need to have some water, I guess. I don't know how many days you can go without that. But 17 days without food, I know people have gone longer, so, that's enough time to grow something, isn't it? You can do something, find something. Then you got to start. I'm going to start looking at these magazines of what you can eat, off the terrain. What is good? Grubs, worms, anything. And when it gets down to it, that's what you may have to do. Okay. Ending on that happy note, I am not going to eat any worms for dinner tonight. I'll see you all on the way. Have a good weekend, by the way. I'll see you Monday on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.